All right, good evening, everyone, and welcome to our public hearing tonight. My name is Jim Ostrowski, and I work in the Environmental Support Division of EGLE. Glad to see several of you on. We've got about 38 people logged in right now, and it looks like a few more people will be joining us as we get started. Again, this is the public hearing for the Adelaide Point project, City of Muskegon and Muskegon County. I am just going to run through a few basic housekeeping things, and then we're going to get this show on the road. So the way tonight's public meeting is going to work, and I don't know if you've ever been on one of these before or not, but we're going to introduce our EGLE panelists here in just a moment. After we do that, we're going to kick it off with a little information session. And what I'm going to do is unmute a consultant for the applicant. He's going to run through, give about a 10-minute or so presentation for us all, hear about the project. Then I'm going to open it up for Q&A, and that's more of an informal process in which you will be able to ask questions and hopefully get some answers. After that, we're going to turn it into the official comment part. So the official comment part is when you make your official comments on the project or on this application for the record. And we're going to run through a whole big hearing statement for you to listen to, and then we give you a certain amount of time to make your comment. We unmute you, and that's when that's going to happen. And that'll probably start about 6:40 or so, but we do have some time to start up front with the presentation and Q&A. At the end, we're going to wrap it up with some information on where to get more information. So if you haven't noticed already, all the lines at this point are muted. So it means you can hear us, but we can't hear you. If you have questions during the Q&A process or the time when we do Q&A, I will remind you how to do that. But basically, you can type your questions into the Q&A box in your Zoom bar. You'll also be able to raise your hand if you want. We're also recording this public meeting. We record all our public information meetings and hearings, and you can find them up on our YouTube channel. So this one, just like all of them, will be put up on our YouTube channel in the next few days. With that, I want to bring up our Water Resource Division staff here at EGLE. Chad and Audrey, you want to come on and introduce yourselves?
Good evening, everyone. I'm Audrey Kirk. I'm the District Supervisor for the Grand Rapids Office, Water Resources Division. And my team of 11 cover 9 counties and 6 environmental protective statutes.
I'm Chad Ipshire with the Grand Rapids District Office. I'm the hearings officer for this meeting, as well as the one that's processing this application.
All right, thanks, Chad and Audrey. So they're going to be hanging out with me just tonight, help answer questions and hearing your comments when we get to that part. All right, so at this point, what I want to do, oops, my slides keep skipping ahead. All right, there we go, is I want to bring up our applicant, Greg Wakekamp. So Greg, I am going to unmute your line. So hold on just a second. I'm going to find you and unmute you. So Greg, are you there? You can unmute yourself. Click your little unmute button.
I am here. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Very
all right,
good.
Greg.
I don't know if you can see me, but you can hear me. So
no,
okay.
We don't have your camera activated right now, but we can hear you. So what I'm going to have you do is introduce yourself, and I have your slides here. And when you want me to go to your next slide, just say next slide, and I'll do that for you. What we need you to do is keep your presentation 10 minutes, 15 minutes max. If you get to close to 15 minutes, I'm going to warn you to wrap it up. Okay.
All right. So I am Greg Wakekamp with Edgewater Resources. I'm a landscape architect practicing over 35 years. On sustainable waterfront developments. I'm a lead accredited professional, and I focus on sustainable waterfronts and the built environment. So if we can jump into the presentation here. So what we wanted to start out with for the group is a little bit of history of the site. What you can see here in this image is our site, which is right in the middle there. It says Hartshorn Municipal Marina is on the map. There's 2 buildings that are existing, and all that yellow that goes out into the water. I don't know if you guys can see my mouse, probably not. That arc out into the water is actual landfill from 1969. This whole area from those buildings northward into the lake is fill from the former steel foundry on the site. So we are looking at everything in the yellow north of those hatched buildings was all filled materials into the lake from a foundry. And that was an actual arc shape out into the water. In 1969, and essentially our proposed project will essentially recreate what was there in 1969. Next slide, please. So what you will see here, if you look at the navigation charts and the current NOAA charts for the site, you can see that that yellow land that was there in 1969 was removed in the 70s, but only there's still a remnants of it into the water. It's a shallow depth. So that green arc that you can still see there is a remnant of that original structure that was out in the water. And if you hit the next slide, you will see our proposed project overlays right on top of that. And you can see that the proposed breakwater fishing pier actually aligns directly on top of that historic land breakwater that existed 50 years ago. If we go to the next slide, this is the site as it exists today, and want to start out with addressing a couple of quick things on public access. The area that you see here for our site, again, is the green peninsula that goes out into the water north of those two buildings there. And what you have is everything that is along that water area north of those buildings is private property, with the exception of that bike path that you can see winding around the water's edge. So all of that land is currently private, what we'll call the West Peninsula, the Middle Peninsula, and then the East Peninsula. That East Peninsula and then eastward from there is actually City of Muskegon property as part of Hartshorn Marina. Everything from that Middle Peninsula to the West Peninsula, all that green space is privately owned land. It's currently many people go out and I guess technically trespass out on the site to go out and fish and enjoy that waterfront. But at the moment, that is all private property with the exception of that bike path. Next slide, please. When you look at this image here, that bike path, you can see it in the photo there. That bike path is actually a deeded piece of property that is funded through LWCF grant funds. And we've worked with the Michigan Department of Natural Resources Recreation Division to help relocate that path. And so all of the land that you see there on the shoreline, that the peninsula in the foreground is actually owned by the City of Muskegon. As you can see right now in this image, it has a lot of clutter and junk and debris that has been being cleaned up, and it is actually behind a fence. So while that peninsula you see in the foreground is actually technically public, it is not open to the public at any point this time and has not been for many years. It's behind a fence, and you had to lease a slip in the marina to get out there. And that portion of the marina has been closed for many years due to high water. When you look up above that Middle Peninsula and the far peninsula at the top of the page there, and all that land is all private, but we propose to make that all open to the public. Next slide, please. So the overview of this project, it is very much unlike traditional waterfront developments. In the old days, the whole idea was you get a hold of a piece of property, it's out on the water, it's very precious. We put up a fence, we put up gates, and we keep people out. That is exactly the opposite of what we propose to do here. Our proposal is to make 100% of that shoreline that we just showed you, 100% of that shoreline to be public, open to the public, and it will be protected by both the conservation easement and also a dedicated access easement that has been granted to the City of Muskegon. So I want to be very clear on that. 100% of that shoreline is going to be public and maintain public access for the community, protected by a public easement. We'll be creating over 2 acres of new public waterfront park and doubling the existing public trail network. So that existing trail network will be relocated closer to the water and then extended out to the peninsulas and then out on the breakwater. Another really innovative strategy we're working on is, rather than having a lot of hardened shorelines, we'll have over 83% soft habitat shoreline, which is a restoration. If you were around in around 2012, you might recall that there was a shoreline restoration project there with a wetland edge. It was destroyed in high water, and we propose to put that back. The site does have a lot of brownfield issues as a former as a former steel mill site. So we're cleaning that up. Our structures will be mass timber, which is a very sustainable new building technology. We'll be putting solar energy on all the buildings, and we'll use green roofs and biofiltration and a tremendous amount of habitat restoration and creation that I'll go into in the other. Next slide, please. So these are just a couple of quick images of the existing site. Again, you can see fences and things where the water's edges is a little bit uncared for at the moment, and that will all be cleaned up. Those are the small docks in the East Basin that have been closed for many years due to high water damage. Next slide, please. And then here's the existing middle peninsula. And I want to point out, if you can look in the water around both edges of that peninsula, you'll see some remnants of rock. And you can see how much of that peninsula and all of that native restoration that was lost from 2012. We propose to completely rebuild all of that. We're actually working with the former director of the wetlands division at DNR from the 90s, Mr. Kogi, and Brian Micah and Elise Tripp, aquatic ecologists and restoration ecologists, to put together a much more robust and durable wetlands shoreline for that whole entire edge. Next slide, please. So on this plan, this is the overall master plan. And what I'd like to point out is all of that green edge along the shoreline, along the water, all of that space is public. So while we will have upland private development with condos and hotel and restaurants and activities for the general public, the public trail network and the public edges of the water are always open to the public and will remain so. We have an offshore breakwater that protects the marina basin. That breakwater is absolutely critical to the safe harbor there. There is no way to build floating docks or even fixed docks in that area that would survive our wave climate or have the boats survive the wave climate on a fixed dock in there. So we need that protection. And so in order to address the fact that that's clearly an impact, we're doing a tremendous amount of work to restore and expand habitat. So currently that marina basin is covered with an invasive called starry stonewort, and it's all filled with foundry fill. When we actually excavate the basin and remove that dredge material, what we're taking out of the lake is not native fill. We are taking out foundry fill that was dumped in the lake for many decades. So we're actually removing fill from the lake to create the basin. And then once that's done, we'll be planting native wet submerged aquatic vegetation. The breakwater itself will have a path on top of it and be fully accessible to the community. We'll also have native Michigan fieldstone on it to provide better habitat, along with fishing habitat structures and so forth. We also have a tremendous amount of ADA accessible fishing piers. We're protecting the existing fishing access, and we're expanding that access where possible. Next slide, please. So in summary, every inch of the waterfront will be open to the public. We'll have all three peninsulas will be cleaned up, improved, and open to the public. Soft edges, habitat, shorelines, and expanded ADA compliant fishing access. Next slide. We're going to have 270 slips and dry rack, all ADA compliant, the safest marina we can build. We're going to replace all the old damaged small boat basin and build new. We'll have a new restroom building, and we're going to have a lot of transient boating slips, which will make this accessible to everyone in the community, but also visitors. We'll have shopping docks where people can come in and dock for free and come and access this waterfront. Next slide, please. We'll also have ADA compliant kayak and paddlecraft launch and rental opportunities. It's critically important to us to make boating accessible to everyone in the community, even if you can only afford a $10 rental for a kayak. We want to make that possible. So lots of opportunities for ADA access and affordable access. Next slide, please. Finally, we're going to do the brownfield cleanup, solar power generation, green roofs, and all those things we've been talking about. And of course, a Michigan Clean Marina certification to make sure we're operating to the highest standards. Next slide. So this is what the marina would look like. We'll just roll through a couple more images. Nice floating docks, typical of what MDNR, what the Department of Natural Resources build. Next slide. ADA compliant kayak launch. Next slide. Lots of fishing. We know there are a lot of folks who use this area for subsistence fishing, so we want to make sure that that's protected. Next slide. When I talk about a soft shoreline edge, this is what we intend to build. This is what the interior of the basin will look like. Next slide, please. This is a slide that expresses all the different types of shoreline edges. 83% of our facilities at the left side there in the living shorelines, and we have almost none on the far coastal side, only where it's absolutely necessary for the hardened shoreline. Next slide. These are just some stormwater streeters. Next slide. Next slide, please. And some solar on the docks. So there's the final image there, and I'm ready to take questions at any time.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Waycamp. I'm just gonna get to my slide here. I don't know why it's, okay, there we go. Okay, so thank you for your presentation. So I'm gonna leave you unmuted there for just a minute. what we have now is time devoted for questions and answers. And again, this is just your time more informally to ask questions about the project. We'll direct them to our EGLE staff first to address them. If they want to, they can have Mr. Waycamp address it further if needed. So again, this is more informal. We'll have in just a moment when we're done with this, a more formal process in which you can make your official comment for the record after we get through the Q&A here. So Shemai, if you have a question, you can type it into the Q&A box on your Zoom toolbar. You can also raise your hand and I will call on you and unmute your microphone so you can ask. I did notice there's a couple people who have called in on the phone. So of course you can't see our screen, but if you're on the phone and you want to ask a question, you can hit #2 on your phone and that'll show me that you want to ask a question and I will unmute your phone line. So with that, I'm going to open it up to Q&A. And I'm not seeing any questions right now. So I'm going to leave the Q&A box open and see what we get. And just want to remind people that, you know, if you have questions about, we're going to try to keep them as closely directed to EGLE's authority as we can. We got a question here that came in, Chad, on how many parking spaces will be dedicated to the public and how close will they be to the water. So I don't know how that relates to EGLE, but go ahead.
Yeah, I guess in that term, I would refer that to Greg. I'm not sure if they've looked at the overall for the upland section. Again, that's, you know, out of our division, kind of out of what we would regulate for this portion of the project. So I'll refer that to Greg.
Sure. If we can go back to that slide, if it's not possible, I'll just describe it. We have an interior loop right there. Actually, that's fine. Go back 2 more where that plan was, if you could.
Oh, the plan.
Forward, actually, I'm sorry. Anyway, we have a loop right there. We have a loop drive and there's on-street parking all the way around that loop drive. And it is as close as we can get to the water's edge. One of our strategies here was to have drop-offs. So right underneath the cursor, I don't know if you can see it, we have drop-off points at the east, middle, and west side. And then we have on-street parking very close. So we have drop-offs if somebody needs to be dropped off, and then someone can park in that surface lot. And then over towards the boat launch to the east, the existing launch, there is parking right there next to the ADA compliant launch, which is over there by the boat launch. So we have it very, very close on the East Peninsula and probably within, I would say, 100 feet on the main part. Our strategy was to not put cars and roads adjacent to the water, and we wanted people there, not cars. So we recognize that can be a little bit of a challenge for access, but we have very clean, accessible routes, good drop-offs, and paved surfaces to get people all throughout the project.
All right, thanks. I'm gonna go to the next question here, Chad. I don't know if you can answer this one. Is there concern about dredging the slag from the foundry? Will it contaminate surrounding waters of Muskegon Lake?
So, yeah, I will start with part of that and I can let Greg talk about the rest. I know that sampling has been done on that main large basin where the boats are shown right there. A lot of that, again, as Greg had stated, is foundry sand. I'm not off the top of my head. I cannot remember it. Greg, I don't know if you can. What numbers were coming back from those sampling, if they were above criteria or if, what kind of things were coming up? I don't have that right in front of me right now.
Do we have Roman Wilson or Kirk Bushbacher online? Because they're from Fishback and did that work. If they happen to be online, they can answer that. I'll start. That area of dredge is primarily sand. It's over 90% sand, which fortunately the contamination does not typically stick to sand particles because of the grain configuration. So it is actually relatively clean. It will not cause a contamination issue. We will also follow all EPA and EGLE guidelines for turbidity curtains and all those sorts of things to make sure that no sediments leave the basin during any construction activities.
Okay, thanks for that. I'm gonna go, we got a hand raised here. So John, you got your hand up. I'm gonna unmute your line. You should be able to unmute on your end and ask your question. It's John R.
Can you hear me?
Yes, you can go ahead.
Okay, great. I thought of a question because we're talking about the sampling. Was it discrete or composite sampling? I know that individual sampling is way better, and I think my question relates to taking a whole bunch of samples compositely and then mixing the results together, or do you discretely sample and then identify the results of each sample?
Want me to take that one, Chad?
Yeah, I'm not sure how, what the method for your guys' sampling was or what Fishbeck's was on that originally.
Sure. Yeah, I don't have the exact details, but they were taken individually. So we did have composite samples of each hole, but the different drill sites were all tested individually. So we know specifically that the site with the most contamination is actually in the East Basin, where there are heavier organics in there, and there's less water quality there. So it's a higher organic quantity. So we know that in the East Basin, we have higher concentration of materials of concern. And then in the main basin, we have a number of samples that were tested individually.
All right, thank you, Greg.
Can I follow up with that question?
But yeah, who's that? Oh, yeah, John, go. You have another follow-up?
Yeah, it's just, so the results that you report for your information, do you use the composite of all your discrete samples, or do you just use the discrete samples themselves?
I believe it's the discrete samples themselves.
And then do you test all the way to the bottom? I know I think you're dredging 8 feet below the low water datum. And did you test that deep?
Correct. Yes.
Gotcha. Okay. Thank you.
I would just like to add as well that we do have a sediment testing procedure. So anytime we're looking at a dredging project and reviewing the impacts, if there's known contamination, we're going to require this sediment testing procedure to be followed. And then in addition to that, if there is no known contamination, but it's more than 2,000 cubic yards of dredging, then it's also an automatic. So we do have a policy. It is on our website. That was followed for this.
Thanks, Audrey. Again, this other question is getting more into the dredging and spoils. I'm going to read it off, and I think we addressed some of it, but maybe you can just clear it up, Audrey and Chad. It says, I am an owner at LYH and am concerned about the dredging and disposal of the spoils. How will that be prevented from contaminating the air and water? The proposal talks about putting these spoils on the project upland. Simple plastic barriers will not protect our waterfront. There is unknown foundry, logging, and other unknown pollutants that are currently safely buried. So do you want to dive into that a little further?
Originally, I know that it was stated that, like I know on the East Basin, if spoils were being removed from there, as they're being tested, if they were going to be shown to be past the accepted criteria, they were either going to be taken off site. There's also a possibility, depending on what the contaminants were, through the other EGLE division, to possibly cap some of those on site has been discussed. At this point, it hasn't, Greg, I'm not sure. I don't think there's been a final discussion on that yet, has there?
Jim and Chad, Kirk Perschbacher is on the line. If you can find him and unmute him, he's from Fishbeck and has handled all the environmental brownfield work, and he can speak more to this question if you can find him. Do you see him, Jim?
No, but if you're on the line, can you raise your hand, Kurt? Oh, there he is. Okay. Yeah, go ahead, Kurt. You can answer.
Yeah, sorry about that. My name is Kirk Perschbacher. I'm a senior brownfield specialist with Fishbeck, and we've been doing a lot of the environmental work out here on the site. The central basin, excuse me, we did run, just to kind of answer a lot of the questions. Greg answered everything pretty closely also. We did follow the EGLE guidance for the number of samples collected. Each boring was collected from the surface down to the total depth of the dredging needed and then composited together. We also ran grain size analysis along with analytical on all the different points. So the central basin did pass the grain size analysis for percent sand. Along with that, the analytical did test out below criteria. So the intent right now for the central basin is to dredge it upland, dewater it appropriately, and then use that as fill material for the site. During the dredging, obviously, there will be appropriate siltation measures, sedimentation measures to prevent anything from going out into the lake. But correct, it is the east basin that has the unfavorable sediments, and as Chad mentioned, will be managed appropriately or taken directly to the landfill.
Okay, thanks for that, Mr. Perschbacher. Appreciate that. Okay, so Chad, now we got a couple more questions here. Oh, is there? Okay. Person here is asking, can you show exactly what is being proposed on City of Muskegon property and show a slide of it? Do we have a slide, guys, that would show that?
Can you go to that permit drawing? It's almost the last drawing, not that one, one more, that one right there.
Yeah.
So, well, so basically the city of, actually, we're gonna need to go all the way up to that first overall plan, way back at the beginning of the presentation, please.
Yeah, sure.
Right there. Oh, sorry,
Oops.
there we go. Yeah. So
which one? I'm having, it's a little bit of lag.
Actually,
this one?
Let's start at the air photo. Go back one more slide, please. Air photo right there.
Just keep skipping. Hold on.
Yeah, it does that. Yeah.
Hold on. I'll get it.
We'll get there.
No.
One more.
It's like weird. That one, right?
Perfect. Yes, exactly. Okay. This will be a little tricky to describe because I can't show my pointer. But if you go to the very tip of the Central Peninsula, the one that sticks out to the very first to the north, right up there. Yep. And go to the very right-hand side of that. Actually, no, up there, right back where you were on that middle peninsula, right there. If you start there, there's a very narrow, it's almost entirely gone from the high water damage edge of Muskegon property, and it goes down towards the basin at that angle that you see. So it goes down towards that, what we call the East Basin, and then right along, it's actually right along the East Basin here. Keep moving your mouse over to the right, please, to that little skinny piece of right there. Exactly. Mm-hmm. Right along that narrow edge is everything east, everything to the right of the arrow is city property. And so that East Peninsula, where you see those little docks there, that East Peninsula, and all of the land along the water over to that horseshoe shaped marina over to the right is Hartshorn Marina. So if you see all of that, that's where the city property is. So the dividing line is right about where the mouse on the screen is right now to the right. There's very little, excuse me, that's my mouse I'm saying. If you take your mouse back over to that little East Basin area, it's basically the west side of that little tiny strip of water there. So if you jump to the next slide where I think we have our plan. What we're looking at is basically, we had proposed in this, yeah, so you can see basically, yeah, there you go, keep going. I'm sorry, the other direction, if you could, to get to that illustration, the nice color illustration of the plan, a little bit more, 2 or 3 more slides. Yeah, right there. So we had been talking about cleaning up that East Peninsula and making that all public park, and then constructing a boat launch in that area. We are now in the process of this discussion, looking at taking that out of the project and reusing the existing boat launch. But for the moment, this is what's on the plan right there. Primarily the issue Primarily the goal was to clean up that East Peninsula, make it open to the public, take down the fencing, and basically improve all of those facilities so it's open and accessible to the public. But there's no buildings constructed over there, nothing like that.
All right, thank you. We're going to go off a couple more questions and we'll get started with public hearing part of it. It's a good one. How does the marina plan to handle spills? I see that there is openings to allow flow to help with organic accumulation. That will also allow the spills to move to the lake rapidly, not allowing contaminant. Oh, but not allowing containment, sorry, not allowing containment. So Chad, how is spills addressed when we talk about these kind of plans?
Usually we refer to the applicant to see what kind of techniques they're going to use to help contain anything that may be in the area. This is something that we haven't dove into a lot, so I don't know if Greg can provide more information on the type of containment systems that are going to be used.
Sure. So the marina, if we can jump to that last permit drawing, it's almost the last slide in my presentation. So basically there's two aspects of our water quality inside the Central Basin. The first aspect is the passive design so that water quality is maintained and we have appropriate circulation. We do have turnover rates of about under 3 days, which is in the that one right there, thank you, in that acceptable range. So for just day-to-day water quality, aeration, that sort of thing, we have a natural system that's basically allows at the left side, you see a circle there. That is an opening that allows water circulation to enter the basin, and then it can go out to the northeast out the entry. So we have good water quality in terms of circulation, all passive. Now, if there was a spill of some sort with the boat inside the marina, the facility will be operated by a certified marina manager, and we'll also follow all Michigan Clean Marina standards. And what that requires is that all facilities have a spill kit on site, and they put absorption booms and all those sorts of things into the water immediately to contain any spill. So that is a very standard practice required by the certified marina management practices and Michigan Clean Marina standards, and we will follow those to the T.
All right, thanks for answering that. This next question has got me. I think this could probably be our last one. It is going to go back to I think the slide I had earlier. It says, does the brown line around the pool represent the bike trail?
This slide is just fine right here, actually.
Okay, yeah.
So you can see on here the path. So basically the path goes between the pool and the water, and then it goes out the peninsula. So you can see the path going out. If we start on the left side, you'll see the path goes straight out to the left side and then goes out on a bridge. That black line inside the circle on the left side there is actually a bridge over the water. And then you get on a path that goes out on the breakwater, all public, all the way out to the end of the breakwater there. And then as you come back down, there's a straight path across the top of the site, or excuse me, across the south side at the bottom of the marina. It goes over, it goes in front of the pool out to the end of the site and then back and around. So what we have here, the reason for that, those straighter lines is actually in response to the existing conservation easement that is out there. And we are in full compliance with the requirements of the conservation easement as well.
All right. Well, thank you for answering those questions, Mr. Waycamp. I'm going to put you on mute, and we're going to move on to the next part of our evening tonight. So thank you for those of you that asked questions. And if you didn't get a chance to ask your question, and a couple of them were a little bit beyond the scope of this meeting in that they didn't really address things that we have authority to regulate here at EGLE. So it might be something you need to take up with the local unit of government and or other authorities. If you do have questions at the end, I will provide emails so you can direct them to Chad or Audrey for follow-up. So thank you, Mr. Waycamp.
Thank you.
All right, well, let me get back to my slides here. Okay, at this point, what we're going to do is we're going to turn over to the official public comment part of our meeting tonight. And what that means, this is your time to actually provide comment. So as part of that, what we have to do is read an official public comment statement. And Chad is going to read that, and it's probably a little bit long, but hang in there with us. And after that, we'll start taking comments from you all. So Chad, go ahead.
All right, I'm going to start provide you guys with a little bit of background information. The Water Resource Division is responsible for administering a variety of programs that help protect inland lakes and streams, wetlands, floodplains, sand dunes, and the Great Lakes. These programs regulate certain activities such as dredging or filling a lake, stream, or wetland, constructing a dam, constructing a marina, placing shore protection or constructing docks, and building in a designated critical sand dune area, wetland, or floodplain. The law governing those responsibilities is the Natural Resources and Environmental Protection Act 1994, PA 451 as amended. We are here tonight because Mr. Ryan Leesma has proposed the following: construct a mixed-use new development that will impact wetlands, floodplains, and Muskegon Lake, including public access, commercial, residential buildings with associated infrastructure, including driveways, roads, utility lines, stormwater basins, parking areas, sidewalks, boardwalks, a seawall, rock riprap, and a new marina that includes a breakwater structure, wave attenuators, floating docks, fixed access piers, finger docks, gangways, platforms, a service pier with fuel and sanitary pump out facility, and dredge approximately 104,260 cubic yards of material from Muskegon Lake and fill approximately 43,628 cubic yards below the ordinary high water mark. Total permanent Muskegon Lake impact below ordinary high water mark is 17.96 acres. Total permanent wetland impact is 1.583 acres, which will be mitigated from a Muskegon watershed wetland bank totaling 3.339 acres. Total temporary wetland impact is 2.128 acres, which will be replaced with a more pristine and functional wetland through various shoreline restoration practices. Total floodplain cut is 2,800 cubic yards and total floodplain fill is 1,168 cubic yards. The purpose of the hearing: so in order for a permit to be granted, EGLE must find that the proposed activities described in the public notice meet certain criteria set by Part 31 Water Resources Protection, Part 301 Inland Lakes and Streams, Part 303 Wetlands Protection of Act 451. In general, we must consider the effect of the proposed project on the lakes and wetlands. When reviewing an application for permit under the provisions of Part 301 Inland Lakes and Streams of Act 451, EGLE is charged to make the following considerations as required by Section 30106 of Part 301. The department shall issue a permit if it finds that the structure or project will not adversely affect the public trust or riparian rights. The department shall not grant a permit if the proposed project or structure will unlawfully impair or destroy any of the waters or other natural resources of the state. When reviewing an application for permit under the provisions of Part 303 Wetlands Protection of Act 451, EGLE is charged to make the following indications as required by Section 303.11 of Part 303. A permit for an activity listed in Section 303.04 shall not be approved unless the department determines that the issuance of a permit is in the public's interest, that the permit is necessary to realize the benefits derived from the activity, and that the activity is otherwise lawful. The permit shall not be issued unless it is shown that an unacceptable disruption will not result to the aquatic resources. The permit shall not be issued unless the applicant shows either of the following: the proposed activity is primarily dependent upon being located in the wetlands, or a feasible and prudent alternative does not exist. The purpose of tonight's hearing is to give anyone interested in the permit application an opportunity to provide information that EGLE can use in making the decision whether or not to issue a permit. Please recognize that EGLE can only use the information you provide if it relates to the criteria that EGLE must use in making a decision. Some of you may simply want to express your support or opposition to the project. We will be happy to make note of your position, but please understand that EGLE is, by law, not allowed to base our decision on whether or not there is widespread support or opposition to the project. In just a moment, I will outline the procedures we will use for taking your comments, but before I do so, I need to mention that the notice of this hearing was published in the Muskegon Chronicle on Thursday, October 6th of 2022. As we discussed at the beginning of the informational session, if you have a comment to provide, raise your hand in the Zoom toolbar. To ensure that the hearing is conducted in a fair manner, we will follow these steps. First, the applicant and/or their consultant has already had an opportunity to describe the proposed project. Second, we will then call on those who have indicated in their registration that they would like to speak. After that, we will call on all those that raise their hand in their Zoom toolbar that they would like to make a comment if they have not already done done so or been called upon. As a reminder, if you are participating in this hearing via telephone only, follow the directions of the moderator on how to identify that you would like to make a comment. You may also submit your comments to EGLE via MyWater's, email, or US mail. When all the comments have been completed, we will ask if anyone else would like to make a statement. When your name is called, your microphone will be unmuted. As you begin your comments, please state your name and any group or association you may be representing. Each person will be given 4 minutes to make their comments. We will indicate to you when you have a minute left. Please begin wrapping up your comments and end within the allotted time. If need be, we will indicate when your time has ended. I ask that we all be courteous and respectful to one another tonight. Please also recognize that EGLE staff is here tonight to provide a fair opportunity for you to express your comments on the proposed project and to listen to those comments. This hearing is being recorded, and your comments will be part of the information EGLE will consider in making its decision on whether or not to issue a permit on the proposed project. The public comment period for this public hearing is open for 10 days from the date of this hearing, ending on Tuesday, October 28th, 2022. Additional information and comments submitted in writing during the 10-day public comment period will also be considered in EGLE's decision. Following the close of the public comment period, EGLE will make a decision to either issue a permit for the project as proposed or with modifications, or send a letter of denial. You may find out what the decision is by checking the EGLE MyWater's website and searching for the application number HPE4ME3M7FCX. Thank you for your attention. We will begin calling the names of those who have indicated that they would like to make a statement.
All right, thank you, Chad, for reading off our hearing statement. Just to remind you, I'm going to be calling off a couple names here. Looks like we got about 5 people who, when they registered, indicated they want to make a comment. So I'll be calling your names off first, and then we'll open up to everybody else. You got 4 minutes to make your comment. When you come up and you're unmuted, you'll be able to unmute your line when I tell you to. And make sure that you restate your name, because I may pronounce it wrong. Apologize for that ahead of time. So I want to make sure it's pronounced right, and that if you're representing an organization, to please state that too as part of your comment. I will remind you when you got like 1 minute left. And up on the screen right now, I've got other ways to submit comments. So if you don't feel comfortable submitting your comment like we're doing here, you can put it into our MyWater system, as you can see there, and or mail it in, of course. And I'm going to ask Audrey, if you don't mind putting that information into the chat so people can access it directly there. And that link you see up there will take you right to the project, the file we have. Okay, so I got 5 people here that want to make a comment. And by the way, just to let you guys know, there are 52 people currently logged in listening to this hearing. So the first person I have up, and I'll list the first 3 so you know, is David Ruck. After that, we got Derek Olson, and then Kathleen Evans. So I'm going to look for David Ruck, and I don't see David in attendance tonight. So if I missed you, Rick, sign on it, or somebody else, you'll have to raise your hand. I just remind you to, I'm going to be using my phone to keep track of your time. So that's why I have my phone here. Next up is Derek Olson. Derek, I do see you. And we're getting an error that's saying that you need to update to newer version of Zoom. And it happens sometimes that occurs. Hold on a quick second. I might be able to promote you. Hold on 1 second. So, okay, Derek, you should be able to make your comment now. So are you there?
Yeah, are you ready for me now?
Yeah, go ahead, Derek. You can make your comment, and you got 4 minutes.
Cool, thank you so much. I really appreciate EGLE and the state of Michigan taking the time to hear our comments from the city of Muskegon. I'm a resident of the city, a lifelong resident, and I love Muskegon Lake, and I love this area. This development is, by many standards, the development of the future. It looks really good. They have green buildings and lots of space where people can go, public access. I think that these are minimum requisites now of this type of development. Not something that's the best thing ever. I think that in the development of the future, we should look for all of those things as the minimum components of someone to build a big development like this on our lakeshore. But the part that I'm the most frustrated about is the large marina development. And so I've watched all this. I've watched all of the videos that the developer has made. I've seen everything. I understand that the lake isn't amazing right there. It has an invasive species and that the bottom of the lake is full of foundry slag. But that is because for the last 40 years, the people of the city of Muskegon have been cleaning up industrial pollution and foundry slag and fill out of this lake that we all love. And so billions, several $billion and 40 years have been spent cleaning up Muskegon Lake. And for us to pour 40 plus thousand cubic yards of cement back into the lake just seems unreal at this point to me. So we have our pristine lake that's about to be delisted as a toxic hotspot from heritage dumping and industrialization that polluted the lake for years and years and years and made it unswimmable and unlivable and literally a toxic hotspot, to now we have a pristine lake. And I fear that developments like this are going to fill the lakeshore with the industrial pollution of this day. It's not the same. We're not dumping toxic waste in there, but we're filling what would be pristine water with docks and boats and places that are now private property. Currently, you could take your boat, your kayak, your canoe, or whatever type of vehicle you have that can go across the water, and you can enjoy this lake. You can drive past this, so you could canoe along the lakeshore. And what they want to build is a pretty gigantic marina that, frankly, if I rented a kayak next to, I would be terrified to kayak around to try to use that water that currently the state of Michigan all owns. So our water that we all have the free right to use is very, very important to us and to me. And I believe that we're going to trade that water for a very, very small price of some public access to some docks that they plan to enhance and build. And I don't think it's worth it. I think that we need to slow this. Yep, thank you so much. I think that we need to slow this marina project down. I think that we need to reduce greatly the scale of it if it continues. And I think that we need to really, really consider the 40,000+ cubic yards of cement that we plan to pour back into the lake that we just spent so many decades and so many millions and millions of dollars cleaning up. And so I thank EGLE very much, and I hope that the people who have the power to stop this project and put the brakes on it so that we can understand the real environmental impact and the long-term impact of the enjoyment of that water for the people of the state of Michigan and the public. I hope that we can slow this thing down and try to really understand how it's going to affect us, because I don't think we do. And thank you so much for the opportunity to speak. And please, 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 EGLE, help us slow this project down so we don't lose 18 acres of precious lakefront that we can all enjoy now. Thank you.
All right, thank you for your comment. Okay, one moment, please. All right. All right. Next person we have up on my list here is Kathleen Evans. And after Kathleen Evans, we got Craig Koroleski and it looks like Shannon Donnelly. So Kathleen Evans, one moment, please. Okay. You should be able to unmute your line. There you go.
Hi, my name is Kathleen Evans, 1899 Barnes Road, Muskegon, Michigan. I'm a resident of Muskegon County, and I volunteer with the Muskegon Lake Watershed Partnership, which is an all-volunteer watershed group that also serves as the state and federally recognized public advisory council for the Muskegon Lake area of concern. I retired from the West Michigan Shoreline Regional Development Commission in early 2022. And my comments tonight will focus on the proposed project relative to fish and wildlife habitat goals and restoration progress in the area of concern, as well as the regulations that are to be evaluated by EGLE. I will submit these in writing if I go over my 4 minutes. minutes. And I will also be discussing this with the Muskegon Lake Watershed Partnership to see if they want comments officially by them, or if these comments tonight that are just actually individual comments by me. So you can consider those my comments tonight, and then I may submit something for the Muskegon Lake Watershed Partnership within the next few days. So the environmental program at Wimserdick managed many large-scale state and federally funded aquatic habitat restoration projects within the area of concern from 2009 to 2022. And they were based on the 2008 Muskegon Lake Fish and Wildlife Habitat Restoration and Beneficial Use Impairment Removal Strategy, known as the strategy. The strategy was prepared by the Muskegon Lake Watershed Partnership, and it outlines specific targets and criteria for restoring just enough fish and wildlife habitat to remove Muskegon Lake from the list of Great Lakes areas of concern. The strategy was not intended to serve as a long-term restoration strategy for Muskegon Lake or to deal with issues outside of the AOC program. The MLWP recognized that the long-term preservation of existing and restored aquatic habitat would be up to the regulatory agencies when we set our targets for restoration. The AOC habitat strategy was approved by the Michigan DEQ, now EGLE, and the US EPA. It was implemented over about a 12-year period with grant support from NOAA, EGLE, EPA, DNR, community foundations, many volunteer man hours, and both public and private landowners. It identified 4 contiguous focus area zones, including the entire south shoreline of Muskegon Lake and a portion of the Muskegon River mouth at the east end of the lake. Most of the historic lake filling and wetland destruction had occurred along the south shoreline and east end of the lake. So the strategy prioritized that area of the AOC for habitat restoration. However, in the case that there would not be enough willing landowners on the lake's south shoreline, the strategy also allowed for restoration within the AOC's immediate tributaries, where degradation had also occurred. Implementation of the strategy met and exceeded its targets for the following 4 separate habitat restoration criteria. 1, the removal and improvement of 123.6 acres of historic fill. So we're talking about foundry sand and slag, broken concrete, demolition materials, and lumber era sawmill debris. We exceeded that target by a little bit. We achieved 125.6 acres of the improvement or removal of historic fill. Second criteria was a reduction of 24,086 linear feet of existing hardened shoreline. And the way that we intended to do that was to remove and soften it and restore it with native plant habitat. And
1 minute.
We did achieve 26,367 feet. So we did exceed our criteria there. The third criteria was the restoration of 73.11 acres of emergent wetlands adjacent to the shoreline. And we were able to achieve 84.3 acres. And our fourth and final criteria was the restoration of 19 acres of open water wetlands, which is like the lake bottom benthos habitat or submerged vegetation areas adjacent to closer to the shoreline, not the entire lake. But we had decided that 19 acres of open water wetlands would be a good goal for us, because we knew that we already had about 85.5 acres of that type of open water wetland adjacent to emergent areas. We were able to restore 51 acres.
That's 4 minutes. So if you could wrap it up, please.
Okay. So the proposed Adelaide Point project is on the south shoreline in an area that is a priority area. It restored many acres and our shoreline feet of softening. There was no open water wetland habitat restored between Adelaide's western and middle peninsulas where the Marina Basin is proposed. But those areas were considered open water habitat already. Permanent conservation easements were recorded on the property deeds, but in order to make sure that we have public access, we would need permanent easements to make sure that those public access amenities are maintained in perpetuity. I'll wrap it up. I have more to say, and I will submit my comments to my waters later this week.
All right, thank you. And Yeah, just to remind everybody, if you have additional comments you'd like to make or you can't fit them into this time, you can always submit them online through the system we have here. Audrey put in the chat the direct link, so you can just click on that and go directly to there to submit further comments. So thank you. Okay, moving on. Next couple people that want to signed up to, and just to remind you, I'm just going through the list of people who said they wanted to comment when they registered. Then after we do this, I'll go through the people that raise their hand. So if you get your hand raised, just sit tight for a few minutes here. Okay, so next person up is Craig Koroleski. And I believe I did see Craig in attendance today. So hold on a second. I thought I just passed his name. There we go. Okay, so you should be able to unmute your line. Go ahead.
All right. So I actually just got here. I don't know what has been talked about yet. But my name is Craig Koroleski. I'm with Relico Property Management. I represent Lakeshore Yacht Harbor. We're the immediate neighbors to the west of Adelaide Point. Our biggest concerns are on more of the geologic side of the development. Specifically, we're concerned about the effect that extending the structures into Muskegon Lake, the issues that we're going to have with deposition into our channel. So for those of you who don't know, marinas have a channel, and that's what the boats use to get in and out of the marina. There are riparian rights that you have to follow when you go to dredge. And so your property, in this case, Lakeshore Yacht Harbor's property, it only extends so far into Muskegon Lake where we can dredge. And then after that, we have to get federal permission to do any dredging. So my question for Adelaide Point, my first question is, do you have a good understanding of where those federal waters start and stop? And then my second question is, what geologic review have you done to look at the change in the depositional pattern that's going to be caused when you extend out into Muskegon Lake? And I don't know if I can share it or not, but I do have a presentation that I'd really like people to see. I can email that to you if you can post it on here. But yeah, those are my two questions.
Okay, yeah, this isn't really a time for questions, but if you want to submit that as your comment, that's fine. We had a question and answer part earlier in the session. This is for comment. We just listen and record your comment. If you do have some supplemental information, documentation, presentation, like you said, you can submit it through the system as part of the public record, your comment for Chad and Audrey to consider. So did you have more you wanted to add?
Absolutely. Yep. Let me
about 2 minutes.
Okay, let me quick pull it up here. Okay, so basically everybody knows that the longshore transport direction in Muskegon Lake is from west to east. And a little bit about me, I have a master's degree in geological sciences from New Mexico State University, went to Michigan State for a bachelor's degree. I have a lot of experience studying sedimentology and stratigraphy in old depositional basins. So basically in general, the sediment in Muskegon Lake is flowing from east to west. And what that does is it forces sediment along the lakeshore from east to west. And when you install, it's called the jetty. It runs perpendicular to the lakeshore. So when you install a jetty in this case, on the east side of the jetty, you have erosion, and on the west side of the jetty, you have deposition. So when Adelaide Point extends their structures out into Muskegon Lake, what it's effectively going to do is cause erosion on the east side, which isn't that big of a deal because the developers are doing a good job on that side with the wave barriers, whatever you want to call them. They're doing a really good job at that. On the west side, however, if let's say the Adelaide Point extends another 100 feet or so into the basin, that's going to cause 100 feet worth of, and this has to get confirmed by a geologic study, which I hope the developers take into serious consideration because we are their immediate neighbors. But what it'll do is it'll increase the depositional fan on the west side of Adelaide Point, which then chokes off our channel to get out into Lakeshore or out into the Muskegon Lake by 100 feet. And if there are restrictions for us to dredge past the riparian rights into federal waters, then we effectively won't be able to use the marina anymore. And so this is a huge, huge concern for Lakeshore Yacht Harbor property values, for the usability of the marina. And we hope, as good neighbors, Adelaide Point developers will take this into serious consideration.
And it's 4 minutes. Yeah.
Okay.
Okay, you all set. Thank you, sir, for your comment. Appreciate that.
Thanks.
All right. Okay, so moving on to our next person that wanted to comment. I've got a Shannon Donley. But I was just looking and I do not see anyone by that name in attendance. So if you're logged in as somebody else under a different name, feel free to raise your hand and we'll call on you in just a little bit here. Next up, I have a Darlene Dahudi, and I do see Darlene. So you can go ahead and unmute your mic and make your comment.
Good evening, and thank you for doing this. I really appreciate it. Oh, sorry, there goes my clock.
Right on time.
Oh, dear. I'm sorry. Well, I don't have the expertise to comment in depth about the biological and environmental situation with this development. However, I did read the expert points made by Mr. Mark Danello in his inner office September 29th, 2022 letter to Chad Hipshire. And I agree with everything he said. A project of this magnitude is definitely going to have an ecological effect. And this may not be the place for it, but I am very concerned about access for the public. And I'm sorry if that question was not in the right place at the right time, but right now, the public at Hartshorn Marina has really good access to the lake, and they will not have that at Adelaide Point. There's nowhere they're going to back up their vehicles and fish out of their vehicles. And there are people who are disabled, have Alzheimer's, are older, and Hartshorn has been in existence for 62 years as a public park. This may not be the place to talk about that, but it's all intertwined and it's very complex. And for the city to trade Hartshorn Park and Marina for Adelaide Point, there's no comparison because Hartshorn Marina is protected. And the people that come there are common people who are comfortable, and they can't afford $14 burgers and $10 kayak rentals or paddleboard rentals. They're lucky if they have the gas to get there and a can of worms to use when they get there. But they love nature, and so did the man who donated Hartshorn Marina. And in the deeds for Hartshorn Marina and Hartshorn Park, it says they will be in the city's possession forever for the public. So I question the legality of doing any kind of conveyance to a private entity. And I totally want Hartshorn Park and Hartshorn Marina to stay as a public park and not be usurped by private development. And I'm sorry if this isn't appropriate now, but that's what concerns me. Thank you.
All right, thank you. No, this is your chance to comment on the project, so that's perfectly fine. That'll be for the record. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, so looking at my list here, that's all the names that I had of people who pre-registered, well, when they signed up for the hearing, wanted to make a comment. So right now, what we're going to do is open it up to anybody else that'd like to make a comment. So if you haven't made a comment yet, and you'd like to comment, same rules apply. You'll have 4 minutes to make your comment. What you can do is click the raise hand icon, and I will go through and call your names off in pretty much the order that you raise your hand. If you're on the phone only, of course you don't have a raise hand icon. If you hit the #2 button on your phone, #2, that'll raise your hand on our end, and we'll see you and we'll call you by your phone number. All right, so if you have a comment, you'd like to make a comment, raise your hand and I will start calling you off. So the first person that I have with a hand raised is Ann, and looks like Maish, and then after that is John Rooks. So Ann, I'm gonna unmute your line. You can go ahead.
Hi, this is actually Jamie Cross. So I'm here at City Hall and doing comments. So I'm a resident of the city of Muskegon.
Okay, could you
And
repeat your name one more time then? So we can get it?
Jamie, Jamie Cross, Cross. So I just want to talk just briefly about something that Derek said, and I always talk about when I talk about Muskegon Lake and these types of projects is, as we all know, is that there was a lot of harm done to the lake from past industry, from lumber to sand mining to steel mills to all the things that happened here in Muskegon, not only to the lake, but to the economy, to our way of life, and to even the health of the people in the community. And I mention that because I really think, based on all the work that has been done to clean up and restore the lake, we have to look to the community and thank them and make sure that they are part of the access to the properties. And remember that the developers that are now coming in really were not there when we were restoring and fixing the lake. So they're reaping the rewards of the work that was done by the people. So one of the things I want to talk about is some of the confusion about the differences between what's going on at Adelaide Point, the property of Adelaide Point, and then also the city property there that's adjacent to and part of this development proposal, although it continues to be city property and will continue to be so. So there's a lot of confusion around that, what pieces are being developed, what isn't developed, and I appreciate the very short mention of that, but there are a number of things that were not mentioned that are happening on city property right there. And that continues to be a confusion. So my concerns are around public access and the city property. So one of the things that I've heard a number of times is that Adelaide Points, the public access points, the piers that are going out around the marina are public access, but there is a cooperative use agreement that has terms for 15 years between the city and Adelaide Point. And if anything is terminated with that agreement, then those properties go back to those owners. So that would then, public access could be lost to Adelaide Point. So it's not permanent at this point in anything that I'm seeing. And the other thing is, what if the property is sold? So I would like to see if there is a way to make sure that's permanent. And I'll also mention that in Adelaide Point's Facebook page, it appears they're getting $1 million appropriation for that pier. Based on what I saw on their Facebook on July 1st. The other concern I have is actually the access to the city property. And there is a new road. While the old road was closed down, right now the second road is through Fricano's Pizza, which I assume is a private road on private property. So again, access to city property is concerned. And then we also you have the new proposed property, which goes right through the middle of both developments and is on the development property. So again, it's a question about, is that public access? Will that be public access? Is it private property? And then just overall, I'm really concerned.
Yeah, 1 minute left.
Sorry?
Yeah, 1 minute.
Yes, thank you. Overall, I'm concerned about the two properties and I'm talking just city properties, the whole Hartshorn area that's considered Hartshorn, the small boat basin, the west of the public boat launch, that's proposed for the Adelaide Point development. And then we have the Hartshorn Village development proposal, which includes the rest of the city property. And they are intermingled and intertwined, and to work on one property without the other and the permits seems very messy. And the city has already pulled one permit as a result because of losing parking space for boats and trailers that would reduce the spaces greatly. So I'm just concerned about that. I appreciate the time, and I hope there's more discussion about what's happening on the city property in the community. Thank you.
Okay, thank you for your comment tonight. Okay, next person up is John Rooks, and then after that we have Dr. Paul Rilani. John, you can go ahead. John, if you're there, just click unmute and you should go. You're good.
Yep, we're trying. Can you hear me?
Yep, we got you.
Okay. Thank you to the entire EGLE team for taking all of our input. This is a permanent decision, and it's exactly what we needed. I agree with a lot of the comments made tonight. I want to echo some of the same concerns, particularly the speaker. I think his name was Derek, the first speaker. I'm representing myself and my company, Parkland Properties. We've been here since 2009, and since then have completed 9 large-scale developments that we both started and completed. They're all multi-million-dollar projects, up to $30 to $40 million each, and we're really love Muskegon, and we love a good, well-planned development, but we have some reasonable concerns in our mind, and we just want to talk about those just briefly. The primary concern is echoing Derek's concern, sort of the impairment to the public trust. And I know the developer said in some other meetings that it's not being used much right now, so it's not that big of a deal, but it doesn't mean we'll never use it. And we disagree that it's used right now because we see kayaks there and we see canoers there and fishermen there. So we do think it's a use of public trust. It's 18 acres of public trust. And we understand that the consultants are designing something to what the developer wants. And like I said, we're in favor of positive economic impact on the community and positive development of this property. But we believe it's possible to have a significant impact without privatizing or harming Muskegon Lake itself, the fisheries, or creating negative impacts to currents or wave patterns. We just hope you can avoid significant privatization of public bottomland and bottom trust area. And it's paramount, and we think it's easy, and but only if properly designed. The design we thought of and we sent into you is an easy alternative design that would have a much smaller impact on the public trust and the public bottomlands. About 66% of the marina would be built into the applicant's property by using the acreage the applicant already owns as part of a basin for boat slips. About 33% would still be in the public trust area, but at least it would be within the 2 peninsulas and arms of land that stick out from the applicant's property. And the arms would still provide the necessary protection from wave attack. We did another design that we sent into you that kind of showed what would happen if the other marinas in the lake, like Harbortown or Lakeshore Yacht Harbor or Point Marine or Hartshorn Marina or Terrace Point Marina would do a similar expansion using the equivalent of the same percentage of their property instead of using any of their own, but use that public trust area in the lake, and it would swallow up and absorb over 100 acres of land in Muskegon Lake. The bottom land would be swallowed up by the privatization in the same manner. And that's 100 acres less public area. So we're hoping there's an opportunity for the developer to develop the property using a basin building approach like has been used on all the other marinas in the lake. We've had 5 public hearings of our own and developed 6 marinas in West Michigan in the last 20 years. We still own 3 marinas today. And we've also been concerned about contamination every time we do any work on the bottomlands. So we hope that EGLE would do their own reliable independent testing and analysis of the future dredge spoil area. And hopefully it can be discrete sampling instead of composite sampling like Fishbeck said was used. We are concerned about all of the implications, not only today, but 5, 10, and 25 years from now, based on expected changes of 6 to 7 feet of water level changes that we always have as the cycles continue in Lake Michigan.
It's 4 minutes.
Okay, I'll stop there. Thank you.
All right, thank you for your comment tonight. Okay, next person up for comment today is Dr. Paul Riolini, and then Kathy Rice after that.
Good evening. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can. Go ahead.
Okay. Good evening. I appreciate EGLE
taking the time and the rest of the community taking the opportunity to join us and understand more about Adelaide Point. I originally became aware of Adelaide Point when I inquired about a property at Hartshorn that we were interested in. We've been residents of West Michigan for the past 22 years and have come to love and enjoy the Muskegon area as well as the watershed area in West Michigan. Over the past couple of months, I've had the opportunity to look through and observe Adelaide Point and understand what the plan is with Adelaide Point and have become a supporter, if that would be. There were a couple of things I just want to kind of set straight about Hartshorn that threw me off about the young lady that spoke earlier. To my knowledge, and it's been very public and very transparent that there is no changes for Hartshorn. So I definitely feel that is something that needs to be cleared up and understood, because that was one of our big concerns as well. And the transparency there and the welcoming of the Adelaide Point group for public comment and public ideas in the development itself has been unprecedented. From the start of my wife's interest in the first property, there has been nothing but transparency. There's been nothing but commitment to the community, as well as preserving our natural resource in the lake, and making sure that is not a temporary thing, but longstanding. Mr. Leesma is not just another developer that has flown in from an outside community. He's been, from my understanding, he's been here for the better part of 3 decades, and has been part of the efforts to help clean up and maintain the spaces, including the Adelaide Point area, which has shown to be an excellent place for the public to go to, and from my understanding is going to be that way for as long as he has that land. His open comment hearing or event that he had a number of weeks ago, he signed the official paperwork, which I believe was also approved to cement that in the plan in itself, that is public access for as long as time will be.
You have 1 minute.
The opportunity and the growth that this project will bring into not only Muskegon but West Michigan will be exponential. It'll continue to support what has already been an up and coming strong economic area within Muskegon. The growth of Muskegon has been just very appealing for those from the outside our state. When I first got here, I was told to stay out of Muskegon until I finally came up here to really see the great things that are here to be offered, the people, the entertainment value, the nature, and all the
Okay,
above.
that's 4 minutes.
I thank you for the opportunity to speak and wish the project well.
All right, thank you for your comment tonight. All right, next person up to comment is Kathy Rice. Then after that, it's going to be Kinfu Adisu. Kathy Rice, you can go ahead. And just remember to repeat your name and any affiliation you're with. Kathy Rice, if you want, you should be able to unmute your line. There should be a button to unmute your microphone.
Got it.
There you
Okay.
go.
Hi. All right. Kathy Rice, I'm with Lakeshore Yacht Harbor, and I did register earlier to be called on to comment. So I don't know what happened there, how I got skipped over, but and I had done that in the event that our property manager, Craig Korleski, who did comment earlier, couldn't be here. He had a meeting beforehand and wasn't sure he could make it. But I just want to reiterate what Craig said about making sure that EGLE has done everything to not just look at how this development will affect Adelaide Point, but how it will affect its neighbors. We aren't directly adjacent. There's one small undeveloped parcel property between us, but we are very close to the southwest. And so we are concerned that changes in patterns of lake sedimentation and currents, how that might affect our accessibility to Muskegon Lake in the future. Currently, when we dredge, oftentimes when we get to the end of our channel, where we exit into the lake, that is shallower than our channel even. So we are very concerned that if sedimentation patterns change, that then the lake will not be accessible to our boaters. And we're a small marina, 633 slips, but I sure would not like to think that we don't consider these kind of existing facilities when we're looking at a new development. So if there are any studies that can be done to make sure that it won't affect the future operation adversely to a great extent our marina, and also if there are some assurances that can be put into place during the development of Adelaide Point, that there are remedies in case this happens, that we have some recourse, so we don't have to, you know, have a facility that won't be able to operate any longer and 63 property owners lose their property values. So that's all I would like to say. We are going to be neighbors of the proposed Adelaide Point, and we want to be good neighbors, and we are excited about some of the positive steps they are taking in their development process to protect the environment, but we would like our concerns noted. So that is, I believe, all that I have at this time. Thank you for your time.
Okay, thank you for your comment tonight. Okay, up next, Kinfu Adisu, and then after that, it'll be Mark Paletti. So Kinfu, you should be able to unmute your line and please repeat your name and any affiliation or association you're with.
Okay, my name is Kinfu Adisu. I am resident at 1046 Washington, just about 4 minutes from the project. I've been around here for the last 12 years. My concern is kind of three areas. One, of course, is, it's really kind of a summary of what everybody said, but the first one is an environmental. The environmental in such a way that we introduce anything into the water, especially in big quantity, like the cement that we're talking about, the structure that we're building, is directly going to affect that. And I don't know if they did the impact statement only on their project or all the projects that are going to be in that area. So I think I have a very serious question at that. The impact statement has to be clearly presented to the public, and I don't really know if that is presented or not. The second one is the issue of safety. When you put all those activities in such a very small area, there's going to be something happening. There's going to be somebody's safety that's going to be jeopardized. So they should really come up with a very good strategy of how they're going to deal with that. I mean, this is very, very simple. yet not necessarily clearly presented at this point. And the third one that I think, I don't remember exactly who said, but somebody has put it very clearly, really good. Access is a very important issue in our community, and we need to have the same amount or more access to people who are interested to go to the water. And I think because of this project, there may be going to be a limitation. That limitation could be an access just simply because they can't make it, or because of the traffic, because of the limitations. And the other one is obviously is going to be economical. When you put a little more expensive project up there where they have to pay for, or they have to really have a certain economic income to be able to enjoy what is presented, that is going to limit the access. And I think that we have to really see it clearly. So these are really the issues that are coming in my mind now. But the fact of the matter is, we need to really look at it carefully. This is not necessarily something that is going to go out there and everybody can enjoy it. Yes, maybe, yes. But I don't mean to put down, the project that they came. This is an excellent project. This is absolutely phenomenal for, for Muskegon and for our community here. But the fact of the matter, we need to make it safe and accessible, and that should not be jeopardized. That should not be an exchange for the development. Of course, we need the development, but how can we negotiate that is really what the company, the investment company has to put it out. So thank you so much.
All right, thank you for your comment tonight. Okay, the last person I have right now with their hand raised is Mark Paletti. So if you'd like to make a comment, please be sure to raise your hand. So Mark, you can go ahead and unmute your line.
Hi, I'm Mark Paletti, Dr. Mark Paletti. I'm in Bluffton here in Muskegon, and I just want to talk about, the development idea. I like the idea of development, but of adventure travel and carrying on with the idea of all the money we've spent on cleaning up Muskegon Lake to attract high-end tourism rather than another development along the beach. I'm really concerned. I go down there. We bike ride by there. Detouring the bike ride on the bike path, I think is going to be detrimental. I think having a barrier of wealthy homes up is going to deter anybody from walking up there and fishing. A poor person, a homeless person, anyone like that is going to be intimidated. And I think Muskegon is the nature of our makeup as blue collar town. We should honor the people that live here right now. The other thing that I see with this whole movement of privatization is that they make something fail. And in this case, they gave up the signage where they changed the route to this boat launch, a very nice boat launch, by the way, and it's next to a nice marina, public marina. And they make it look like it's a failure, but one of the ways they did that is they got rid of the signage. And I mentioned this at many of our city commission meetings. Why don't we have a sign? Why don't we have something there to let people know that we have a public launch right here, right at the base of the lake? And so a lot of times we get failure in the eyes of developers, and seems like it's planned to fail. So I don't like that. The other thing, from a point of view of a sailor, putting a jetty or piers deep out into the lake, from that reach coming back from town, it's a very narrow reach because there's a rock out there that we have to approach, and we have to go around that. And that's a real skinny, narrow area, and we have a predominantly southwest wind. So we'll be taking it on the nose. It'll make it difficult for us that like to sail small sailboats to go up and down to the downtown and lakeside, trying to promote the businesses that we have there, stopping there with our little 16-foot sailboats or our kayaks. So thank you for your time and considering all we have to say.
All right. Thank you for your comment.
Thank you.
All right, everyone, I'm looking to see if there's anybody else that would like to comment tonight. Just to remind you, if you're on the phone only, you can hit #2 and that'll raise your hand. And I will just leave it open for a minute to see if anybody else raises their hand and would like to make a comment. All right. Seeing none, I am going to now turn it over to Chad, and he's gonna read the closing statement for this, and then after that we'll follow up with a few more details. Go ahead, Chad.
I want to thank you for your comments and cooperation. We appreciate your interest in the proposed project and that you took the time to be here tonight. As indicated earlier, you may submit additional written comments until Tuesday, October 28th, 2022. Following the close of the public comment period, we will consider all comments received and make a decision on the proposed project. Just to remind those that may still want to submit a comment, comments can be submitted via MyWaters, email, or US mail. The hearing is now closed. Thank you again.
All right, thanks, Chad. So on the screen, you see that we have the other ways that's been up there for the whole comment period, how to make a comment if you need to. There is Chad's information. So if you need to get a hold of him for more details, you can do that. That's how you do that. I am going to turn over to Audrey really quick, see if you want to make any comments. Audrey, go ahead.
Yeah, thank you, Jim. I just wanted to thank everyone for being here with us tonight and for giving us your comments. I am really impressed. I didn't number my notes, but I took notes for everyone that spoke. And given the amount of people that were signed up, and some of the folks that are signed up are fellow EGLE staff looking to see how a hearing is run, and just tuning in for interest. So given the amount of people we had and the amount of people that spoke, I was really impressed with that percent. So thank you so much for the comments. We really appreciate it.
All right, thanks, Audrey. Yeah, I want to reiterate what Audrey said. I appreciate all your comments and everybody's thoughtful comments tonight, and for being courteous and being on time. I appreciate that. We will be following up. You'll probably get a note from Chad or Audrey in a little bit with some follow-up details. We do that after all the public hearings, just to kind of let you know. So if you registered for this and we got your email, we'll send you one kind of follow up after this. Also, as I said at the beginning, we did record this public meeting and it'll be posted to our YouTube channel in the next few days. So if you're not familiar with that, I don't have the link right here with me, but if you type in Google EGLE YouTube, you'll be taken to our YouTube channel and you'll be able to find this hearing as well as all the other public hearings that we've hosted for the last 2 years, if you're interested. So you can see that all up there. I want to thank everybody for their attention tonight and hope you all have a great rest of your evening. Thank you.